All right. So, I don't know if you remember a few days ago or before you were in the hospital, it was on X, and someone made a comment about Aquinas being corrupted by Aristotle. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I
And
remember that.
I made the comment that the difference was that Aquinas was Christ-centered versus Aristotle's God of the unmoved. Like he was certainly influenced, but he's not corrupted. And I just wanted to see if you could explain more about this because
Yeah, happy
I love
to.
Aquinas.
I do too.
Him and Augustine are the ones that really helped bring me to the Catholic Church. They're one of the greatest saints in the world, and so I just
It's
really want to see more of what you think about that.
same for me. It was through the philosophers and the saint philosophers that brought me into the church. Like I only converted like 6 years ago, and it was through like a long 10-year period
Yeah,
of learning. Hey, there are these really brilliant philosophers.
yeah,
I grew up like evangelical Baptist and so on, and went through an atheistic period, but it was like that intellectual journey and realizing, hey, there's really
definitely.
smart guys, and they didn't seem to have real deep-seated issues with Catholicism, like kind of not now we take as like common complaints, from Protestant side.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if they didn't have a problem with it, like what's my hang up? And like looking more into that. Of course, not just taking on authority, of course, but yeah, but I love thinking about the difference between Aristotle and Aquinas because I had to learn this a lot because at first glance, it looks like Aquinas is just Aristotle 2.0. He's just doing the same stuff. Now, the guy who was in the comments, I really think that I don't know if he was being like intentionally provocative, like saying, "Oh, Aquinas was corrupted." Like, who is your alternative? First of all,
Right, right.
I mean, you have to be really now, not to say that and be like ignorant because I know there are like a couple of Orthodox people or maybe Catholics, non-Thomists in the comments who are like, wait, what about Scotus? What about Bonaventure? And so on and so on. Occam. So they're like viable alternatives, but he seemed to be coming at it from an attitude of, oh, Aquinas is an idiot. He got it all wrong. He's corrupted by Aristotle. I
Yeah.
suppose if you don't have Aquinas, then if you don't like Aquinas for the reasons being that he was influenced, let's suppose negatively by Aristotle, then your viable alternative is just going to be Augustine, who's a Platonist.
Mhm.
So I've never really like seen that take in the wild. Honestly, I thought it was just like, I know it's in the logical space, you know, and that's the way I teach it. Is like before before Aristotle was rediscovered in the West, we were all just nice, well behaved Platonists
Yeah.
because we didn't know any better.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, what are your thoughts there? I've talked a
Well,
little bit.
um, yeah, have had, I've seen this, I don't want to say names, but I've seen this account and
Hmm.
person has done this a good number of times. And, at that point, I just didn't want to engage anymore.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. 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 Totally get that.
I really, I love to engage in good faith dialogues, but
Yeah.
I just didn't get that sense. And when, when you responded, it's like, that's your opinion. I remember that was one of the responses, or it was just, like dismissive. It didn't feel like a good faith dialogue. And,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. But, I think reading, the Summa, Aquinas on grace and the incarnation and the resurrection, just, you know, it puts that to rest, this idea that he was totally corrupted by Aristotle again, like the
Yeah.
personal God, incarnation of Christ. And so I know that, so yes, again, he's definitely influenced when we talk about like the substance and the form
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
matter in talking about. I know he agreed with Aristotle on the forms, that it can't, it's not with Plato that they can exist apart from matter. And I know that he wrote that Aristotle saw this middle way that, there were the forms, but you couldn't abstract them from matter, I
Yeah.
guess. And so I also want to know, like, what do you think about, do you think Aristotle like he rejected Plato on the forms? Like, what was he totally in a disagreement?
I think you've described it really well here. Man, it seems like you know your philosophy a little bit. That's
Well,
awesome.
been like you, I've been on this journey for a
Yeah.
long time, studying obsessively, like Aquinas and Augustine and many other saints, and other philosophers. But yeah, it's definitely been an intellectual journey for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that language, just the language that you're using, I realize you're talking about like being the form, being abstracted from, but only in the mind, that's definitely
Right.
Thomistic and an Aristotelian. So, yeah, that shows me exactly what you're talking about.
Thanks.
And of course, Aristotle differs from Plato in that, but I think that Aristotle didn't reject everything of Plato, obviously. Obviously, if you're going to go the ethical route, of course, there's a lot there that they agree on. They agree on some things about the state, the value of flourishing in the state and virtues and so on. But that's all like axiology. But as far as metaphysics, they couldn't be more different, but still they agree on some really fundamental things. Like they agree that there are such things as forms and those forms are real. They're not constructed. They just agree about like where to place them.
Right.
So, yeah, but the whole question that guy was he's trying to allege that, as you said, Thomas Aquinas was corrupted by Aristotle. Now, I don't I can get into like a 10-minute spiel about how Aquinas is not the same as Aristotle.
Right.
But like that's not what is being claimed. It's like, oh, he's just repeating Aristotle. He's saying he's corrupted by Aristotle.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if you're like looking, are you aware that the Summa Theologiae has like a structure to it, like the exitus and the reditus and the descent into man? So the whole descent or exit from the divine, he's dealing with in the Prima Secundae, the whole, actions, will and politics and virtues and vices and so on and so on. And then he returns to, and by the time he's at the end of the Secunda Secundae, he's talking about the gifts of the Holy Spirit after he talks about the 7 virtues. So, and then it's all about like the sacraments of the church, the life of Christ, and then, the incarnation life of Christ and all.
Right.
And you notice, of course, by then there's like, wait a minute, there's only like 4 sacraments he mentions. Of course, it goes right. So like, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Yeah.
Like burden of proof's on him to allege like in what areas did Aristotle corrupt Aquinas, and I just don't think he has the case there.
Right. The most common one I hear is on transubstantiation. That, it sounds very Aristotelian, the language, and like Aquinas, copied. I've heard, Aristotle on this. I've heard plenty of things. I've engaged in this a lot of times. But, I'm with you on, Aquinas and Aristotle. I think Aristotle had a lot of things right, and certainly Plato did too. But I think Aquinas and Augustine being, Christ-centered, and their theology just doesn't give me the reason to believe that, he borrowed every single, idea, and he was just, copying what they said.
That's a good point, because there is that at stake too. Like if he's corrupted by Aristotle, and this is what brought my mind to this, maybe he's just repeating Aristotle. He's not just repeating Aristotle. Right. And there's some significant points at which he disagrees with Aristotle. And, we can go through those, but there's also, I remember being in some seminars in grad school where we got to some points, and like, I think it was in the virtue on charity, or it might be on law, the treatise on law, where he's diverting from Aristotle to take Plato's side on a metaphysical issue. And I'm just like, what? I thought this guy was like all Aristotelian. He's not, because he's the great synthesizer.
Right.
So, and I think if you take a way too simplistic view of Aquinas, is just parroting Aristotle, which, to be fair, he does a lot, but he doesn't only do that. And so, I think it's just it's a way too simplistic take.
Right. Yeah.
I wish I knew like where now that I'm thinking of it, I'd have to go like way back in my notes and be like, where, if I wrote it down, like a big exclamation mark, oh, he's not talking like a Aristotelian here. It's been some, it surprised and shocked me. I could ask around, but.
Right. Definitely. So one more thing. I was just wondering like what, I see that you have the doctor, Derek.
Yep.
So I never, before that, short conversation on X, I never seen you before.
I just joined in like March or May or something. Yeah.
So, my goal is to eventually do, scholarship and, like I really want to be a scholar and, do take this to that level, to the PhD level, and see if you
Yeah.
have any advice on, how to pursue that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So first of all, you're well on your way because, like, you know this stuff better than I did when I was starting out. I mean, of course. So here's a lesson that's worth everybody listening to right now. If you're in the comments, if you're just not paying attention to something, listen to this right now. When you get into grad school and you start playing the comparison game, you will feel immediately stupid because there's going to be things that other people read that you haven't, right? But like, you have to step back and realize there are things you've read that other people haven't. Like, it's just makes logical sense, right? So like, if I don't sit with that truth and like really remind myself of that, then I can think, man, this guy knows a lot about Thomistic metaphysics or something. I haven't read a lot about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've read that you haven't, of course. But that's the same no matter who you meet at a conference, no matter who it is in your department, it's all going to be like that. So that's worth remembering, just to keep your sanity about you, honestly, and just to encourage yourself. Like, just because you haven't read Rorty or you haven't read Foucault, it's like,
Right.
you don't have to read it all, like, just read the
Yeah.
stuff that you find brilliant and interesting, and, and pursue that. So, man, I could do a whole stream and conversation all about this, but
I hope to keep in contact, and, maybe you can follow me
sure.
back on X. I followed you already, and,
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love
Yeah.
to post this like, hey, this is my
Drop-
first conversation on Aquinas. I have
Awesome,
I
yeah.
have a small YouTube channel where I've done some Aquinas videos, like in a PowerPoint form, but I want to
Cool.
definitely take it to the next level one day and like do
Yeah.
like a
I'm
webcam.
constantly learning too. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that read the whole Summa. Fredoso probably has, since he's translating it. But I don't know, like, anybody in my personal life has read the whole Summa, like just the one work. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I'm still constantly learning. I just learned about
Definitely.
Thomistic metaphysics after I finished my doctorate, like last
Wow.
semester. I had to teach a Thomistic metaphysics course, and I was like, crash course. I have to learn this like week by week as I teach
Right.
it. It was tough, man. There's so much I still didn't pick up.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please come back and
Definitely
drop
will.
a comment under this
Keep in touch,
drop a comment under this video or something on
Yeah.
X, and I'll find you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It was
All right.
great. Thanks for,
Good to hear
having
from
this
you.
open.
Absolutely, man.
Peace
Thanks
and
for coming on.
blessings. Thank you.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye.
All right, that was really enjoyable.